What's up, guys? Can you guys hear me? Uh-oh.
I got you, bro.
You're both muted.
I am not muted anymore. Can
Man,
you hear
bunch of
me?
boomers, bro.
There we
I
go.
can hear you now. Jesus.
Sorry, guys.
It's
Bro,
all good. I forgot you guys are boomers sometimes. What's up, guys?
bro.
We're back. Another
Yes, we
Tuesday
are.
night.
Yeah. After an ugly win.
It's a win.
It is.
Yeah,
Ugly,
it's a
but it was a
W.
win.
Yeah. Personally, I know it's one of those things where I both feel a lot better, but also it's the anxiety's still there because I think every week's going to be like this for a while. So, because they need wins.
So that's what happens when you have to scratch and claw and dig your way out of the hole. It ain't always going to be pretty. But the key is to get that W.
Yeah. Well, if you're watching this out there in the days to come as a VOD, or you're watching this live with us tonight, I'm Reg, and this is Bob and Ray. And we're live every Tuesday night at 8:30. And we talk all Bengals and ball. And like, subscribe, jump in the comments. We've already had some comments tonight. Nick Hyatt, first comment. Nick also says, "Are the sunglasses a trademark?" They are a trademark, Bobby. You don't have to
They
worry.
are. They are.
They're the trademark sunglasses. But
Great.
yeah, I think let's kick off by talking about the offense. They've been dominant, honestly, aside from week one. Despite the record, and I think this game pretty much went the opposite of how we thought. I think I personally thought whether it was somewhat low scoring or high scoring, it was going to be
back to earth.
It was going to be a 35-27, not a 17-7 grinder,
Yeah, we came back to earth a little bit, but we talked about it too, and the Giants aren't the best of teams, but when it comes to having a front four that can get some serious pressure, the Giants are one of the best in the league. They lead the league in sacks, and Joe Burrow got to see every fucking bit of that this week. I was starting to get to a point where I was starting to get concerned for his safety. I felt like it was 2021 again, or the Titans game in the playoffs. It was starting to get out of control there for a minute.
Yeah, we kind of hit that slump, man. Even though the way we started was electric, I don't think anybody foresaw Joe Burrow gashing them, for 50 yards.
No.
We may never see that
Thanks,
again
Nick.
from Burrow, though.
Appreciate it, sir.
You know what I mean? Like, that was the longest run by a quarterback in Bengals history. The chances of us seeing that again are pretty slim, I think. It worked out. It worked out, obviously. Thank God that he had the,
Yeah, maybe he's got his legs back, man. He's been missing them for a while.
Yeah, honestly, I even despite the lack of numbers, I think Burrow handled himself and played a good game. There's going to be games. There's going to be games like last week where you throw for 5 touchdowns and it's a field day, and then there's games like this where you literally, like you said, it's about surviving healthy and not making the mistake that loses you the game. And that's something that Burrow's good at that we have to lean into in games like this. Sometimes he's got to take those sacks. You know what I mean?
Oh, right. In this game, I feel like every time we started to get something going, there would be a big sack or a really rare Jamar Chase drop. It was like every time we would start to get a little bit of rhythm, something would happen. It's just one of those games, and I feel like it brought our offense back down to earth. We've been averaging 30 plus points a game for the past 3 games or so. And it's like, wow, even the national media, I think, kind of overhyped the offense a little bit coming into the game, because I saw everybody's picks this week and their score predictions, and, I didn't see any score prediction that, was 17-7.
Right.
All through the night, Collinsworth, which I don't get. why you kept saying this is a weird game. I didn't think it was a weird game. It reminded me of an AFC North game, really. Defensive battle, a grind out game. Who's going to make the one or two plays in the game to win it? And thankfully we did. Thankfully, one of their biggest play on offense of the night was called back for a penalty. And I think I felt like in the time on that fumble toward that ended up going out of bounds, I felt like if the Giants would have got that, we were in a serious situation. I mean, a chance to lose the game.
It could have been bad, man. It could have been bad, though. For
sure.
But
for once, something rolled our way or out of bounds way. But
Ray, any thoughts on offense before we start moving to defense?
Yeah, man, I'm kind of over Zach Moss, man.
I kind of agree with you. I agree with you after this performance.
I think those takes that he took from Chase. I mean, Chase might have been closer to 100 yards. You never know.
Well, Chase's carries have been going up. His percentage of his ball carries opposed to Moss has went up almost every game. But what really upset me about Moss this game was his pass blocking and protection and blitz pickup, because there was 2 or 3 times where he completely blew it. He completely blew it. And allowed the pressure to come right in Burrow's face and completely would miss a blitz pickup. Like, that's where I got frustrated with him this week.
I mean, I think he had like 6 carries for like 13 yards, and you could tell, Chase towards the end of the game, like he's getting warmed up. It seems like, running downhill. Like, he did fumble the ball there, but I mean, look what he did the very next. He instantly made right up for it, man. I mean, gashed him for 32 yards, 31 yards.
Yeah. Well, I told Reggie, earlier. I believe it was earlier. Like, I know we're going to talk about the Browns, the battle, and all that. But I think the goal needs to be to try to get Chase 20 carries. If you can get Chase 20 carries, I think he's going to show the NFL what he's about. I think he has a chance to be a dominant running back in this league. Swing and miss.
Yeah, honestly, I kind of feel like, to sum up the final thoughts, at least my final thoughts on the offense, is the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, those few plays a game that you need to make to win, the Bengals weren't making. And then the Carolina game somewhat, right? But like in this game, the offense wasn't making those plays, but the defense was making every single one. And like all of the key moments, just about, you take away a couple of penalties, but even those penalties weren't too game-changing because they were still able to get bailed out by a missed kicker, right? But still, I mean, the defense, which is a good transition into it, DJ Turner might have saved the season. They were making the plays that they needed to make for us to win this game, which they've not done even a couple of times this year.
Yep.
There's been we've had 2 games where they had no stops. So, I mean, it's 9 day different. I would rather have this game happen and the defense feel like they got right, and now we know both sides of the ball can do it. Now we just got to put together a game where both sides do it. And I would rather have had this game where the defense feels like they've got their shit together a little bit, or at least can show that they can have their shit together, than us go out and win this game, by Burrow throwing 5 touchdowns. I think this was more meaningful of a win.
I think if anything, it was a big confidence booster. To help build some confidence. And there's a big damn difference when you have a healthy defensive line. B.J. Hill had a great game. Once again, showing that, I can't think of his name, the trade for him, the bum from Ohio State. What was his name? The center.
Billy Price.
Billy Price. B.J. Hill came over on that Billy Price trade, and I mean,
that turned out.
He let the Giants, right, dude. He let them know y'all made a mistake. I mean, he had serious pressure. Sheldon Rankin showed himself a little bit.
Well, we actually had the front 4 that we started the season with that we haven't had since week 1.
Right.
Yep.
So,
Right.
I mean, that was another thing. You got to think we went through a 2-game stretch where the Bengals were playing with 4th-string practice squad guys in the interior. You know, I mean, Zach Carter's not even on the team right now.
I mean,
and he was getting significant reps into 2 of the weeks 2 and 3. So,
right. Well, I mean, everybody knows that, games are won and lost in the trenches. And, we kind of got away from the offense there because I feel like we should have covered the offensive line issue a little more. Because
we can go back to it, yeah.
I was kind of I mean, I know that Burns and that Dexter Lawrence Dexter Lawrence is probably all pro. They're on his way to being all pro. I thought that the offensive line got a big fucking D performance for that game.
Their worst game of the year.
By far. So, I'm hoping maybe it was just a bad game, but, because we're not done with our fair share of pass rushers. So, the offensive line better tighten that shit up.
Yeah, I mean, they better do something, man. I mean, because if the Giants can figure it out, I mean, what are you doing, Frank? You know what I mean? I mean, at the end of the day, you have it. I mean, you got a great offensive line at the end of the day. I mean, we've built this offensive line. So it's like to have a performance like that, absolutely, man. I mean, I probably would have gave it an F, but I guess D is a fair assessment,
I think F, just because Burrow took, way too much punishment.
I'm telling you that shot, dude, where he got levitated and dropped, dude.
Burrow's sneaky tough.
That's what I'm like. Is he going to make it out of this game?
Yeah, dude.
Because Burrow's sort of, showy in a way, so he don't get
but it is won and lost in the trenches, and if our defense, if our defensive line can play to the level that they did against the Giants the rest of the year, it makes me pretty excited because I feel like we are going to go on a run at some point and win a lot of games if they can keep that level of intensity like they did against the Giants offense. Yeah. Now I know it's the Giants offense and they're not world beaters. They were missing their running back. They were missing Malik Neighbors, little baby Chase, whatever you want to call him. But it has been real nice to completely shut them out.
Well, the 2 things about the O-line. One is I'll give them credit that this year they've played well, and they seem to have improved from a game-to-game basis overall. This was obviously a massive step back, but it was also their first game this year against elite interior talent, which, again, like you said, they're going to face that real soon. This week, Myles Garrett's going to line up in the A-gaps at times. I mean, the famous national media clip of Myles Garrett going between the legs crossover before he bull rushed Karras. So, but the second thing I'll say about them is that they're veterans. Volson, even though he's just now a 3rd-year player, might as well be, he's a veteran now. He's played a lot of games. And Karras and Kappa are veterans. So the hope is when you have veteran guys is that they're going to be able to, like, okay, we got our measuring stick against this. This is what big-time stunts are going to look like. And, honestly, Kappa, who's been maybe our best offensive lineman this year, multiple times didn't pass off stunts. Very, very basic stuff that veteran guys should be able to at least regularly be able to handle. And they weren't able to all night.
So let me ask you something. So let me ask you guys something. Do you think the Giants have exposed something in our line? Or do you think it was just one of those bad nights?
I think, honestly, I think it was a little bit of a mismatch. I do. I think, like, personnel-wise, I think their D-line's pretty good. And for whatever reason, Dexter Lawrence, he's a beast. And we talked about this off podcast. If you got to go 50, 60, 70 reps, we'll say, 35, 50 reps against a monster, you're going to lose some. The difference is, as a defensive player, you have 11 guys. You have 10 other guys who can make up for that mistake. as an offensive lineman, for those 30 pass rush sets or 24 pass rush sets, every single one mattered, because if you have total failure on one rep, you're giving up a shot. Well, guess what?
Right.
They had 5 to 7 reps that were real bad of around 50 snaps on Sunday Night Football, and that's the difference in Burrow taking a beating and not. That's the minute difference in the NFL. And for the most part this year, they've played good and they're veteran guys. So the hope is, they're going to take a lot from this going into this week, because the Browns, they match up stylistically. This is their Super Bowl when they play the Bengals. So their D-line, we get the best of Myles Garrett every single time the Bengals and Browns play.
Well, thankfully, Myles Garrett, he's been playing hurt, so he's not playing 100%. But we'll get into that in a little bit.
All 5 linemen will see Myles. I guarantee you, at least one rep or another.
Yeah. Well, we'll get into that in a minute. Let's get back to the defense. I thought Cam Taylor showed some improvement this week. I really thought he showed some improvement that he needed to show, because he's been way too inconsistent.
Honestly, they were going after him.
Good. Everybody's been going after him.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you talk shit on social media, people are.
Oh, he's having some technical issues, I think.
No, man, Cam. No, man. Cam's been talking some shit, bro. And I mean, he's going to get challenged.
Yeah. Oh.
You know who I was glad to see back on the field? Mike Hilton. Mike Hilton sure makes a difference. Mike Hilton is a difference maker. I don't care what anybody says. He's got some age to him, but he's still, to me, one of the premier nickel corners in the NFL. I don't give a fuck what anybody says.
He's underrated tackler in the box. Mike Hilton is a good tackler in the box. He's good at getting ankles, and we've seen him tackle Derrick Henry so many times over their big games against them when the Bengals' defense have kept Henry in check.
Yeah.
But honestly, to sum up, like, the defense, at least in my opinion, like, wrap up my thoughts, I think this was best case scenario. The defense playing this way on prime time, and Jamar after the game was pretty much said, he's like, they did their part and we've done our part. Now we just got to do it at the same time.
Well, I agree. And
we got to do it at the same time.
What I will say, though,
for real.
What I will say, though, is I know we've had this conversation many times over the years. Your Super Bowl window is right now. You want this last run with T. Higgins right now. If you think we need help anywhere in the defense, where would you guys say right now? Just off the top of your head, each one of you.
Probably safety.
D-line.
Safety.
Corner.
D-line. I'm going to lean more towards what Reggie just said. Yeah, you could probably use some depth at safety. Battle got some snaps this past week. They seem to have great communication, and I think that the speed and the level of play is picking up in safety. But D-line right now,
I don't know.
We have getting BJ Hill back and Sheldon Rankins. I think that's going to be the sufficient pressure, the sufficient pressure that we need to get in the interior. But I think, and I know they won't, but I wish they would go out, make a move, and get a guy on a rental deal. Listen to me. Get a guy on a fucking rental deal to go opposite of Trey Hendrickson, because you do win in the trenches. And as dominant as Trey Hendrickson is, you can go out, say, go get Bosa from San Diego. LA, whatever. He's got 2 years left on his deal. He's already made a big portion of that money.
Yeah.
This year, his base salary is $8 million. Next year is $13 million. Then he's an unrestricted free agent. So your fucking draft picks to this point haven't worked out for years, anyways. Hardly ever. When it comes to some shit, okay, in some positions. Why not take some of those draft picks that aren't going to probably work out anyways and go call LA and say, hey, we want Bosa. Go get him. That is a move that makes sense financially. And if this is your real Super Bowl window and one last ride with T. Higgins and this team that you have now, why wouldn't you go do that? Can you imagine how dominant this defensive line would be with a strong rotation with Sheldon Rankins, B.J. Hill, the rookies, Jenkins, Trey Hendrickson on the other side, and then you sprinkle in Miles Murphy and Joseph Osai with Bosa opposite of Trey Hendrickson? Are you fucking kidding me? That's exactly what this defense needs. That's exactly what this defense needs.
I do have two pushbacks to that.
This defense needs a fucking safety, bro.
I do have two pushbacks to that.
If you're getting big time pressure, your safeties ain't getting much action, bro, because the quarterback's on the ground.
First, the Super Bowl window is always open for Joe Burrow, son. His whole career, dog. Okay. Second, Sam Hubbard has entered the chat because he played his best game of the year. Dude, Hubbard was dominant against the run. I haven't looked at the grades, but
against the run,
I know that. But what we've been last 31st in the league against the run, dog. Like I mean.
And guess what? We're next to last
the run first.
We're better against the run than we are getting pressure on quarterbacks. That's for sure.
Now I feel like the past few weeks against the Ravens, they played the run actually pretty well, and this week
they have played the run pretty well. It's having another dominant pass rusher opposite of Trey Henderson. Why not make that move? Why not? Even if you can't get Bosa,
I don't disagree.
I'm not saying go try to get Max Crosby for a fucking fortune. To me, he's slightly overrated when it comes to some shit. But Bosa's, there's been rumors that he's not happy there. His deal. Why not make that move? Fuck, I'd be happy if they called down and got Calais Campbell. He's 38 years old, but he gets more pass rush than Sam Hubbard.
One thing's for sure: if you had Bosa on one side and Hendricks on
Trey on the other side,
you'd have the most attitude at edge because they both play with that dickhead mentality.
Because guess what? Now, in a perfect world, the Bengals wouldn't even accept a phone call. But you better believe the Detroit Lions have called the Cincinnati Bengals yesterday or today, or are going to contact them this week and offer them something highly enticing to get Trey Hendrickson. I'm telling you that. You better believe they are.
Duke
they just lost Aiden Hutchinson.
Find your own Trey Hendrickson.
Right. I'm just saying.
Any thoughts on defense before we move to the Browns?
Bro, Bengal Bob's fucking crazy, man.
No, I'm not, man. That makes perfect sense. Ask somebody in the chat if someone's in there.
We're waiting on the chatters.
They have $9 million in cap right now. Bosa's only due $8 million this year.
Yeah,
dude, I understand.
Give him a second and third round, and you bring one a premier pass rusher.
Right now, the defensive line room is pretty full. It's the safety category that we need to focus on.
You wouldn't want to make room. You wouldn't want to make room for Bosa.
Oh, come on, bro.
Sorry, bud. We have to keep.
Period.
Sorry.
He just ain't cut.
Sorry, we have to keep Joseph Osai.
Week 7, Bengals versus.
We have Jordan Battle in the wings, right? Whoa, there's like an alien just came in. It's like. Dude, Jordan Battle will take over back there.
Oh my god,
this is chaotic.
I gotta get that, make a TikTok out of it, or what is the YouTube, the reel?
I mean, does any of that make any fucking sense that I said to you, Reg?
Oh, it does.
It does make sense.
It does. Here's the thing.
Now, the problem on our defense is safety. What has Geno Stone done in the last 3 weeks, 4 weeks, all season?
Yeah. Well, Jordan Battle did play more this week.
Exactly.
Again, he did. But at the end of the
day,
then
what are you talking about safety for?
Geno Stone, because again, dude, he's not tackling anything but air.
Do you know what the best thing is to make up for a weak secondary? Is a strong pass rush. A strong pass rush will make up for a weak secondary, dude.
Are you watching the game? Do you see how
clearly you're not watching the game,
bro? And I understand.
Since Dax Hill got injured, he's like, I'm not watching the defense no more.
Not a Dax
what
Hill,
are you talking about, bro? You've seen them targeting.
First off, Dax out for the season.
Don't bring his name. You've seen them targeting Cam Taylor-Britt, right? You've seen them, right? you see where Geno Stone is at, and the majority of those plays, he's supposed to have over the top help, and he's completely out of position. Geno Stone will not be a Bengal next year. Mark my words.
Probably not.
He will not be a Bengal next year.
That's why Jordan Battle's in the wings.
I think
I understand what you're saying, Ray. But listen to me. I understand what you're saying, and I agree with you partially that we are going to need more depth and a bigger playmaker at safety. But guess what? Right now, value-wise, if you're on a Super Bowl run, there's a lot more fucking value in going to getting a guy like Bosa to help rush the passer so he can't even throw the ball than going and finding a safety that you're going to just get as a depth piece. Again, when you go get a premier pass rusher, it's going to make a huge difference. And if you don't agree with me, then I don't know what you're smoking.
Well, here's the thing. I don't disagree with you. But I just don't think the Bengals are going to do that.
They won't. But I'm saying they should.
I'm not saying I disagree with it because I mean,
they should
take this team to another level.
They should by far.
I'm not going to disagree. Obviously, the mass pressure we could instantly have.
Last night we watched two teams that I don't think are really any better or any worse than the Bengals right now, and that's the Buffalo Bills and New York Jets. Yeah, Buffalo Bills record's better. Yeah. But guess what? Guess what the Jets went and done today after losing last night? They went and made moves to make their team better because they know the AFC is all fucking cluttered up and it's anybody's game right now. Buffalo went and took Cooper from the Browns because that's what they need. The Jets, they need a wide receiver too. They get Adams. They're about to work their deal out with Hassan Reddick. But if the Bengals really, want to fucking be modern and change some shit, you're going to go make a move and get you a fucking pass rusher, whether it's on a rental deal for a year or like Bosa, you'd have him for 2 years. Go make a move. This is our window.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying.
It would be dope.
I
just don't think the Bengals will do it.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Don't do that type of shit. I mean,
instead to go get what was that guy's name they just picked up? A guy.
Yeah, I think he got like 2 reps, maybe. I don't know.
Let's go get a nobody and add the depth. No, go make a real fucking move to show a team that really wants to win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
Now let's get into
if we want to get to where we want to go, exactly. I mean, we have no wins. The Bengals have 0 wins against AFC teams and 0 wins against divisions.
Better believe it, because we ain't got that second pass
boxes with one game.
What is in that cousin Vinny's game?
Water.
Yeah, bullshit. Fucking water.
Yeah, there's just water in mine.
Somebody start us off on this week's game. Come on.
Go ahead, Ray.
Come on, Ray Dog.
I think Bingle Bob should go ahead. He's doing a pretty good job of talking right now. Go ahead, Bingle Bob.
Oh, shots
I will. Right now, the Bengals have a chance, and Joe Burrow have a chance to exercise the demon right here. The Browns have had our number. Plain and simple. Sad but true. They're walking into this game with one of the worst fucking teams that they've had in a long time. I mean, not the worst, because the Browns have had some really bad teams. But they're a mess right now.
Yeah.
Deshaun Watson is an absolute joke. As far as I'm concerned, he don't deserve to be on an NFL field as it is. And then to quit on your team numerous times this year, I won't ask. You got Myles Garrett playing hurt. You just got rid of your best weapon on offense in Amari Cooper. Yeah, you still got Jerry Jeudy, but it's up in the air with Jerry Jeudy. Some people like him, some people hate him. But this is your best chance that you've had in years to get some payback on the Browns with Joe Burrow, because they've had his number. This is a really bad team we're going up against Sunday. Yeah, Nick Chubb's back this week, so you better believe they're going to do everything they can to give that man the ball. And we may not be able to completely stop Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb is still, I think, even though he just came off an injury and he's got to prove it, that is a premier running back in the NFL, or at least he was up until that.
And he's looking to have a get-right game himself.
You better believe it, just like everybody who plays the Bengals. It's a get-right game. But this is a really bad Browns team. They literally, the coach wants to bench Deshaun Watson, but the owners won't let it happen because of the money that they've paid him. So This offense, we need to come in this game. We need to get Chase Brown at least 20 carries, flip the script on him, because you know that's what they're going to want to do with Chubb. Let's flip it on him. Let's make this one of the most dominant running performances of this offense we've had in years. And I think it's runs behind Eric All, Chase Brown getting at least 20 carries. And then obviously we all know what happens when you're running the ball. Play action will open up. So T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, all these guys are going to get their opportunities and catches. And I mean, go in there and dominate their asses. Dominate them. And the stage is set. We just have to not shoot ourselves in the foot here and let them get right. Because I'm telling you, that is a very bad Browns team right now. And if you lose your asses up in Cleveland, what is that going to say about this team and how close they are to a Super Bowl?
Yeah, I completely agree.
It. Yeah, that's it. Let's move on to the next segment.
You killed it, though. No, to be honest, I completely agree.
Yeah, absolutely.
And honestly, this is the type of game to where, like, obviously this is, boom or bust mentality, but this is the type of game where you pretty much you put Deshaun Watson in the category where maybe he's going to be a backup quarterback the rest of his career. And I mean that from the perspective of, they're looking at this game as a get-right game too. Deshaun is, Nick Chubb is. Like, the Browns have treated, or at least it feels like it from a Bengals perspective, the games against the Bengals as their Super Bowl. I mean, the Browns have played their best game every year the past 3 years against the Bengals. And both matchups, it's not like either game has been easy the past 6 matchups, the past 3 years. And the Browns bring their best every single time. And I'm telling you, we're going to get their best this week. The difference is if the offense plays how it played the first 5 weeks and the defense plays half as good as it played Sunday night, the Bengals can win this game and win this game handedly. And you can have the Browns walking out of there reevaluating, saying, maybe we should bench Deshaun Watson. I mean, this could be a game if the Bengals really came in and beat that ass.
It's the final nail in their coffin.
It could be the final nail in Deshaun's coffin. Yeah. I mean, literally, the Browns are at the edge, the very edge of being done with him. If a division opponent who you played well, your coach has coached, Stefanski's coached well against the Bengals. This is the type of game where if you get embarrassed by the Bengals, I mean, the front office and front end, this could be a big turning point for Stefanski, Deshaun Watson, a lot of people in that franchise. And the Bengals, this could be a big game to catapult them to say, there's a lot of boxes the Bengals got to check over the next, 11 weeks, right? 12 weeks, whatever it is. And this is a box that they have to check because they have no AFC wins and no AFC North wins. And guess what? You're going to play the Browns still one more time after this. So you set the precedence now, back-to-back wins, and we're going to try to, start checking some boxes,
Yeah, definitely. I mean, at the end of the day, like, my biggest fear is us playing down to them, because that's always my biggest fear. It's always been this Bengals curse where it doesn't matter what it says on paper. We fucking play down to the, bitch-ass teams like that. And I'm not going to say Deshaun Watson's the worst quarterback in the National Football League right now after watching the Lions-Cowboys game. Because I think that you can make an argument that Dak is right there with Deshaun. I mean, they are both horrific right now. It's hard to watch right now. When you look at how much money these quarterbacks are being paid and the product they are putting on the field with the attitude they're putting on the field, I mean, I agree. I mean, Reggie, you could be spot on, dude. They could, if we come out and we boat race them, they could pull him at halftime, and that could be it for him. He could be another, Cam Newton running around making TikToks and shit. Like, it's, I mean,
I don't think anybody wants to follow him.
No, probably not. But you could find him at your local massage parlor,
Right, for sure.
But I mean,
you're right.
At the end of the day, it's just that we got to show up and show out,
All right, give us first predictions. Go into that.
Yeah, man, I got a 27-16 final. I think we're going to limit them to probably one rushing touchdown with Chubb, and I think it'll be field goals from there on out for Cleveland, and I'm hoping Joe puts up 3, and hoping Chase at least gets 1. So that's where I got it at, man. The 27-16. I think it's going to be a close, semi-close, slow start first half, and then I think the second half, man, we're just going to do what we've been doing, what our identity used to be, which was being a second half offensive team. Where we score 3 or 4 touchdowns in the second half consistently.
I like that. Bob, you want to go? You want to go?
Yeah, that's fine. Fun fact, I don't think the Browns have scored over 20 points in a game this year. I think they're the only NFL team to not score over 20 points in a game. And I think that streak continues. I think we'll go in with the right game plan. And I'm going to be confident that we're going to execute that game plan. We're going to walk out of Cleveland 3-4, close the door on the Browns this season, 31-17.
Oof.
Damn, we're actually closer. We're actually closer than I thought we would be, man.
This is honestly, this part of the podcast has sweated me all week because it's like, honestly, the Browns and Bengals game is like this weird anomaly that Bengals and Browns fans know. You can throw the records out the window. I mean, it's like that with the whole division. But with the Browns, especially the Battle of Ohio, it's like the Browns could be terrible, the Bengals could be good, the Bengals could be terrible, the Browns could be good, and you don't know what's going to happen. But call me a Bengals stan, but I think this is the first game all year that they play a complete game or close to a complete game. I think if the offense starts fast, they're never going to look back in this game. And the offense has talked a lot about starting fast this year a lot, and they haven't. I mean, I guess 1 game, 2 games, but I mean, they've even as good as the offense has been. They've started out and went down and scored, and but I'm talking about like big dominance, like they can do. And the reality is, do I think that's going to happen? No. But if you literally are scoring how they can, and you're putting in the high 20s and 30s, like there's no way that our defense, if they can play half as good as it on Sunday night, will let this Browns offense. They're just in too much disarray. You know what I mean? Like, I think this is like a statement game for themselves to be like, look, like this is an offense that we should be playing well against. We know, they're a familiar foe. Like they're limping right now. You know what I mean? Like they can't go in and fall back on their face how the defense was the previous 3-4 weeks of the season. So like this has to be a game where it's a complete game. Offense is scoring. They're running the ball. I want to see the multiple looks, the 2 tight end sets, the 22 personnel, 2 tight ends, 2 running backs. I mean, I want to see beef package. I want to see 0 personnel, 5 wides. I mean, show the versatility that they've already put on tape this year and, score and let the defense pin their ears back and play fast and complete game. Like you said, you in the Browns season, come out on the other side, you're 1 game shy of 500, and you feel like you're back in this, and you just checked a big box in the Browns who've handed us our ass the past couple years. So I'm going to say the Bengals get back in the 30s. I'm going to say 34, but I think the Browns, just because this is how weird things are, they're going to break that streak this week against us. They're going to score over 20 points. I'm going to say 34-21 Bengals.
I like it.
It just feels like a game where it's like that's sort of a bystander, like, hey, they scored over 20 points finally, but the Bengals offense was running. I'm dead serious, dude. That's how weird the narratives can be sometimes.
Man, I mean, it's so bad in Cleveland, they've lost fans. Like, a gentleman I've known for 20 plus years now, Schmitty. I think both you guys know him too. Everybody knows Schmitty. He's a diehard Browns fan, and then he got finally over their shit, and now he's a Commanders fan. Literally, I mean, like he got rid of all this Brown shit and bought a bunch of Commander stuff, and That's how bad it is in Cleveland right now. Their fans are jumping ship. So
Yeah.
the last thing we want to do is go up there and take a big fat L, dude. So
Yeah.
You never know.
This week on Toxic Talk, it's the same things. I mean, I've seen
if you want
some more favorable stuff, but for the most part, I mean, it's been half the fan base is one way, half the fan base the other.
I feel like this
on
should be
Facebook
called.
had Smitty changed to the damn Commanders.
I feel like this should, instead of Toxic Talk, it should be called Canty Talk. Because if you want to hear anything toxic to do with the Bengals, just tune in to Chris Canty in the mornings, and you'll hear all that you want, and then some.
Yeah, he actually said the Jets are worse than the Bengals, and they even tweeted and said this is a lot coming from Canty. I was like, oh hell no. Ray, anything toxic you heard this week?
Just coming out of Bingle Bob's mouth. That's about it, man.
Man,
I'm not toxic.
Man.
The guy's toxic.
Fuck me, bro. Fuck yeah.
All right, it's time for that. My favorite segment every week, since he's finest five. This week is wide receivers. Next week we're going to defense. Finally, we're doing cornerbacks first. That's gonna be a good one.
There's gonna be some surprises.
Maybe not.
Oh, I know. I'm sure Raymond will have some real surprises for us.
Well, if you're joining us right now, because we just had a little peek in viewers.
Bless, bro. Come on.
We're live every Tuesday night at 8:30. You know, we do some of the same structures every week, same segments, and
same arguments.
Yeah, make sure you come through. Like, subscribe, check us out Tuesday nights 8:30. This week on City's
Thanks for watching. Everybody have a good night.
This is, again, I say this every week, and then we have people that are like, that's not what I think. This isn't, since he's finest five is your own interpretation. Maybe you're heavy on stats. Maybe you're heavy on your favorites, on who you used to watch. Maybe it's a combination of the both. Whatever the case is, these are unique. So these aren't purely statistics. These aren't purely fan favorites. All right, who wants to go first this week?
I think you should. I think you're up, bro.
All right, I'll go. So this was somewhat hard for me, and it was also pretty easy in some ways. I think you're probably most people, if you're watching this in the week to come as a VOD, are going to be surprised at Jamar Chase being on the list already. But Jamar signs this new deal, and he will at some point. He's going to be with us for a minimum of another 3 years after that, if not longer. He's going to finish the way he started, and which is what he said after he was drafted. He's going to break all the all-time records. And it's shocking how many records Jamar Chase already has. We're talking about yards in a game, catches in a game, yards in a season. I mean, all of the short-term things Jamar already has. Minus season catches, which he's already been close. And, all-time yards, all-time receptions, things that he'll get with time. So, to me, if I'm objectively looking at the top 5 receivers in the Bengals history, Jamar has to be on there, because if his career ended right now, he would be mentionable. So, I put him at 5. I think the next 2, Isaac Curtis and Carl Pickens, were pretty tough. I think they both played pivotal roles at big moments in franchise history. They did. And both of them were great receivers. And, they're both somewhat fan favorites for a lot of people. They're both somewhat statistically high up on the Bengals all-time list in yards and catches. They deserve to be on the list. I think I edged Carl Pickens over Isaac Curtis because personal preference. Right? Come at me. 2, I went AJ Green. Adriel Jeremiah Green. I mean, if Chad wasn't a Bengals receiver, AJ Green would be the all-time receiver in Bengals franchise history. And I don't want to say it wouldn't be close, but until Jamar hit the time in, it probably wouldn't be close. Right? And then number 1, Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco. Chad is all-time yards, all-time games, 100-plus yards receiving. I mean, the list of Chad's accomplishments are
goes on and
astounding. And on top of, I think at their peak at any one time, Chad had the biggest peak. A.J. Green was widely considered one of the best receivers in football, but Chad Johnson, for at least a brief period, was the best receiver in football. And I'm not sure that Jamar has quite hit that, because I think Justin Jefferson is pretty damn good. So, yeah, that's my list. So, again, a little personal preference, a little bit of statistical, a little bit of foreshadowing. I don't want to say it's perfect, but it's perfect.
There's definitely going to be some similarities in our list, I'm sure.
Who wants to go next?
I'll go ahead, man. Throw it out there, bro.
There's Ray's.
Hey. so again, dude, I was with you on, the whole 3 and 4 pick there, obviously, but I actually threw Chris in there, man. I know he's probably ranked like 6th or 7th all-time ranking for a Bengals receiver. I bumped him to 5. I mean, again, there was a couple people that I wanted to put there that are not Jamar Chase.
Yeah.
But Chris in his own right, man.
As annoying as he may be, huh?
Right.
I can't stand him. I mean, there's no denying what he did for our organization and what he brought to that game in that era, and he's there at 5, bro.
And honestly, to give Chris some credit, he's also still relevant. He's also a Bengal that's still relevant. You know what I mean? And that does matter.
So again, dude, I was kind of torn on CP and Isaac, man. I mean, again, these are Carl Pickett's. I mean, me and Bingo Bob we were watching those games, man. So I threw him at 4. I threw Isaac at 3. And the only reason why I gave Isaac the edge there is because of something I'm surprised you didn't mention, which is, there's an NFL rule because of Isaac Curtis.
Yeah.
Where, defenders
5-yard rule.
Yeah, I mean, that's all.
Bumping around. So they did it to slow him down.
Yep. The original speedster.
He was.
Yeah.
So that's why I put him at 3 over CP.
I like that.
Obviously 2 and 1, man. Like you said, I mean, there's no arguing it. It's not debatable. Anybody that does a top 5 Cincinnati Bengals receiver list, it's going to be Chad at 1. It's going to be AJ at 2 because of what they do, their yards. For now, for sure, man. I mean, Jamar definitely has he's got to beat it. But can he?
Jay Morrison put it really well. I in my research for this, I read a thing by Jay Morrison. He was talking about the start of Jamar's career, and that was prior to last year. And he basically said Jamar has already gotten in the car, started the car, and is on the road. He's just got to finish the drive. In terms of his Jamar, when he was drafted, said, I'm going to break all the receiving records. And you know what I mean? And remember, there was a few people that went after him. Like the one girl's like, catch some balls first.
So
remember that one chick?
Yeah. I mean,
was it Kelsey Conway? No.
In my opinion, man, until T. Higgins is gone, Jamar's not going to consistently put up big numbers every year just because T. Higgins is a number 1 wide receiver in his own right. And I feel like he's swallowing some of those yards that Jamar typically would get. I mean, look at these receivers on this list. I mean, towards the end of Chad's career, we had some good receivers. I mean, TJ Husmanzada could have been at number 5. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, we've had a lot of great receivers, man. But yeah, go ahead.
One of the positions the Bengals have drafted, honestly, before Bobby goes, one of the positions the Bengals have drafted well for decades has been receiver, maybe the best position.
And you're right. And before here's my list, but a comment I want to make about Jamar and T. Higgins is as good as the wide receivers that we've had. If T. Higgins, say, were to be here long term with Jamar Chase, they're both on pace right now. That from the same era, same time period on the team, could both be in the top 3 or 4 in every stat and category in the Bengals history together.
Yeah, I mean,
that's how good T. Higgins is. Because his
He's
numbers
already top 12.
Too right.
I
his
know,
numbers
man.
aren't too. I mean, that just shows that that says a lot.
He's top 12 in yards.
Here's my list. TJ, who's Manzada, who's Manzada, who's whatever you want to call him, had some of the biggest catches in Bengals history, as far as I'm concerned. Some of the biggest third down catches that guys grow up dreaming of making in NFL games. I had to have TJ on there, and it was a he didn't have the numbers and quite, played as many games, but Darnay Scott was real close, to 5 there too. Number 4, Tyler Boyd. I don't care what anybody says. And all my years of watching ball, Tyler Boyd is one of the best slot receivers I've ever seen play the game.
Love me, Tyler.
Ever to lace up the cleats from the slot, Tyler Boyd has been. I think he's had a great career. I mean, I don't know how it's going to work out in Tennessee, but at the end of the day, Tyler left his mark in Cincinnati and will always be remembered for that. Carl Pickens, number 3. As a kid, Ray mentioned it, man. I mean, they're in those days with Jeff Blake and Boomer Esiason. Carl Pickens was a gem, man. And I might as well throw in Neil O'Donnell. I don't know how many people remember it. If there's anybody watching remembers, one of the best moments with Neil O'Donnell and Carl Pickens was late in the game. He spiked the ball, threw it up deep. Carl Pickens in the end zone against Schittsburg. It was a great game. Anyways, and then obviously too, AJ Green, who for a time there, every time an analyst or anybody on TV mentioned AJ Green, it would say future Hall of Famer AJ Green, because he was on a pace there to probably break all of Chad Johnson's records himself. It didn't work out that way, unfortunately, but the potential was there. And then obviously, the best route runner to ever lace up the cleats, as far as I'm concerned, Chad Johnson, made some of the greatest catches in team history. Some of his catches in games, statistically they may be surpassed, but for the moments and the time and the show that he put on, man, it was coming out of a dark age of a Bengals franchise and a team through the 90s. Chad really made it fun for a long time, so obviously he's my number 1.
There's 2 things I want to say about your list really quick. One, here's a little bit of Bengals lore for you guys and everyone out there of an alternate universe. In an alternate universe, week 1 of Joe Burrow's rookie year against the Seattle Seahawks, with no fans in the stands, Burrow put together his first game-winning comeback drive in his first game as a Bengal, and threw a comeback to the front corner pylon AJ Green for a touchdown to win the game, but AJ got called on pushing off. If that push-off call doesn't happen, AJ Green might have a resurgence in his career, and maybe they go on and things are different. Burrow doesn't hurt his knee that year, and AJ Green would have broke all those records. But that push-off call, literally, we didn't win the game, and it's sort of the start of a missed connection between him and Burrow for the remainder of his career with the Bengals. They was just kind of always off. And AJ looked a little old and slow, and it was time to move on. But that play could have been Burrow's first game-winning drive in his rookie game. That would have been massive Bengals lore. Second thing I want to say is I like your list because you're showing possession receivers a lot of love. TJ and Tyler Boyd are probably the 2 best possession receivers the Bengals have ever had by a lot. Chad Johnson, what made him great was that not only was he a vertical threat, he was a possession receiver. Chad could take over the game with slants and literally, take over the game on a drive, 2-3 drive stretch where he was from possession to possession dominant.
Yeah, another guy that was great at that too, man, was Chris.
Who?
Chris Henry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Deep threat. Huge, but it was a big deep threat too. Bryce having some issues. You guys got any honorable mentions? Because I got one.
Mine would probably be Darnay Scott.
Ray, you got any honorable mentions? Your mic's muted, I think. Or you're lagged out pretty bad.
No, it's not, bro. I'm technical difficulties over here, bro.
You got an honorable mention?
I'm trying to fix something. Hold on a minute.
You're okay. I'll give you an honorable mention, Bob.
All right.
When I first started playing Madden or football games, I think on N64, Madden like 95 or something like that, or maybe it wasn't 95. There was a cheat code receiver in that game. His name was Peter Warwick, because you literally could hit the streak with Peter Warwick every time because he was just a burner. Peter Warwick's always been one of my favorite receivers. I mean, he was, Peter Warwick, you could actually make a debate as one of the greatest college players ever. Peter Warwick was dominant. His highlight tape is as good as anybody's.
Him and Chad were 7-11, man.
For
that
sure.
was the other half of 7-11.
Yeah, Peter Warwick.
And I'll never forget the Chiefs coming into town at 10-0, 9-0, and that's when they had Hall as the return man. All you heard was Hall this, Hall that, and then in that game, in the upset of the Chiefs, 10-0, Peter Warwick has one of the best returns in Bengals history.
And they're like 9 or 10 Hall. One of the two. That's like a canon event for me. I remember that game. I remember that happened. I remember that night on NFL Countdown, Chris Berman recapping it. He's like the undefeated Chiefs, and it's burned in my memory. Chris Berman recapping the game of beating the undefeated Chiefs.
I mean, I guess one of my honorable mentions would be some of my oldest memories. I mean, 5 or 6, I think, man. Tim McGee. I mean, that was probably, he was one of the first receivers that got me really
he was Mr. Reliable.
Catch the football, you know what I mean? Constantly. I just always wanted to catch a football, watching Tim, So that would be my honorable mention, man, would be Tim McGee, man.
Nice. Well, boys, any final thoughts for this week? Any closing things before we get out of here?
Closing, I want to bring up special teams. I thought special teams played a huge part in that win Sunday night. I know they kind of helped cost us the game against Baltimore, but I feel like Rico responded well after that botched snap, and this week, and he flipped the field a few times and was huge in this game.
We won the hitting yards because of him.
Right. Tyson Anderson.
Absolutely.
Great gunner. From the gunner position, I'm telling you, he looked elite out there.
He deserves that. He deserves
special
that.
Special teams deserves a big nod of the hat, because they played very well this week, and we all know when you're able to flip a field like we did a couple times, it's a big difference in the game. It makes a big difference.
Yeah, I keep waiting for that. Go ahead, Ray.
No, I was going to agree with him. I was actually going to talk about Tyson, man. I was also going to talk about DJ, because, again, man, there's 2 young guys, man, that are making big plays, and big moments. So it's like, hats off to both those guys, man.
DJ Turner might have saved the season.
Might have. Wait, guys. I got a question for you.
Lore, okay?
I know, for real. I got a question for you. So obviously, Trenton Irwin hasn't been getting a high volume of snaps. Obviously, Charlie Jones hasn't. Now Charlie's been playing on special teams as a return man, who, by the way, hasn't been that great. He's only averaged 6 yards a return. But other than the one fumble, he's been pretty reliable. What do you guys think about activating Burton this week and not Trenton Irwin? Irwin's maybe running a few snaps during the game, very limited because we've been so much in 12 personnel. But I would rather at this point of the season, let's start giving Burton, some shots because he is an outside threat. I think it would only help.
I kind of like that, but I guess my thought is there's what the Bengals are lacking right now, which offensively they really haven't been lacking before this week, is more offensive threats. You know what I mean? Like I look at it from the perspective of what do you need from a guy who's fourth in the rotation, right? You need someone who, when their number's called on the obscure occasion, is going to be reliable and has proven themselves. And I think Trent Irwin has done that in spades with Burrow and Zach.
Yes.
So you look at Burton and you say, yeah, there's a deep threat there potential, but we would rather, if we're going to be taking a shot to Jamar Chase or T. Higgins. You know what I mean? So I part of me agrees. I think he needs to, if he's going to be a part of the room in the future, they need to start slipping him in there to get him reps. So I from that perspective, I get it. From the perspective of, something you touched on there at the beginning, though, was about Trent Irwin and Charlie Jones not getting much reps. There's a cause and effect in football. The effect has been them not getting much reps. The cause has been the Bengals being more diverse in the run game, showing more two tight end looks. Right. So because they've been showing a multitude of looks and motions, they haven't been going the big 5 wide sets, running 4 receivers. There's been 2 and 3 receivers on the field 90% of the time this year. And if you're going to have 2 or 3 receivers on the field, it's going to be Jamar T. And you know what I mean? So,
I just feel like if you are going to have a 4 or 5 wide receiver set, I feel like having Burton out there and giving him some reps, even if he has to take what little reps Irwin gets, you have a chance to really do some damage when you got Chase on one side and Burton on the other.
If you're going to replace him with somebody, I would imagine it would be more down the lines of Gesicki, but because again, I don't think Gesicki has had a very last 2 good games. I mean, Eric All in my mind is slowly pushing Gesicki out the fucking window. I mean, that's just how I see it. Watching the games, watching the tape over. I mean, Eric All is performing.
Well, that's because of the 12 personnel. He's a better blocker. Right.
He's an end line type.
Well, not just that. I mean, he's showing off his.
I just feel like,
and he's got great hands.
They're still going to line Gesicki up in the slot and let him run the corner route over Eric All.
Right.
Because he's a veteran, he's a better
right. But there's where I was going with that. There's where I would put Burton there and give Burton that shot over Gesicki. Right. Yeah. So that's where I was going with that, was getting Burton on the field. If you're going to get him on the field, it's going to be someone like Gesicki that's coming off, not Trenton Irwin or, I'm not happy with Charlie Jones, man. I mean, at that point, you could put Burton back there and let's see what he can do on a kickoff return or punt return, whatever.
You can't trust him. He's too young for that. Hey, that's why I said Trenton Irwin. Take some Irwin snaps for Burton, not Charlie's, because for the most part, he's reliable. He's going to do his job.
He's proven it.
You can't put that in a rookie's hands. But what you can do is when you do have those 4 or 5 wide receiver sets, instead of Trenton Irwin out there, for a majority of those reps, you could sprinkle in Burton, and he gives you an explosive chance at a big play. Why not?
Ray, any thoughts? Go ahead.
I'm excited for the game Sunday, that's for sure. And it's, let's get one game closer to 500.
I mean, that's what it's about, man. Like I said, that was what we talked about a couple weeks ago was, my thing was, can we get to 500 before our next loss, because it's inevitable, to sit here and be realistic and think we're not going to lose at least one more game or 2.
And he cut out right in his thought.
Oh, I think we can get to 5-4 going into Baltimore.
Yeah.
Am I bad?
If we can get to, I agree with you. If we can get to 5-4 going into Thursday night football against Baltimore, that's where we want to be.
Yeah, I mean,
I'm telling you, the Browns, the Eagles, and the Raiders are all 3 games that this offense should outscore if the defense can get the stops they need. It'll bode true, and we'll be going into Thursday night against the Ravens at 5-4.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I don't know if anybody's heard, but I'm sure you have. The Eagles game now was flexed to 1 o'clock, the whiteout game. So
yep, I got it in the ticker.
So we don't get Nance and Romo. We'll get Charles Davis and Ian Eagle. But
yeah.
Honestly, I think this game was a big game for them because I feel like this is a huge game for the defense on Sunday night. And I think that's some chips that they need to stack and keep stacking moving forward. And I think from a fan's perspective, people need to just take a breath. Every week is going to feel like a playoff game right now. Every week's going to be anxiety because right now that's the spot they're in. And until they can get out of the hole, it's going to be that way. And there's still a lot of football left. So I think this is another week because every week's going to be like this for a while. They just got to win. No matter which side of the ball's carrying,
just win, sides, baby.
Right. And it sounds stupid, but that's what they got to do right now. And,
what they got to do is if it's brown, flush it down.
And if you're watching this or you watching this in the week to come, every Tuesday night, 8:30, we're live. We're talking Bengals. I know there's other Bengals podcasts and live stuff going on. But, on our channel, you go to the live tab and then there's the full season. So, come check us out.
Bengals Brothers podcast.
We'll go before we review the picks. Next week, cornerbacks. Finest 5 cornerbacks. So come check that out.
There's going to be some surprises in there.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Yeah. There's going to be.
I think off podcast, we talked about it. I think number 1's pretty clear cut. But again, since he's finest 5 is about each individual's interpretation. You guys out there too, if you're watching, hey, throw your top 5 receivers in the comments. Throw your top 5 quarterbacks, coaches, defenses. I actually thought about briefly for this past week, what if instead of doing receivers, since it was fairly straightforward, what if you did receiving units?
Yeah.
How does that change things? Because you can actually, Chad could go in multiple units. Look at, you got AJ Green with Mohamed Sanu and Marvin Jones. You got the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd. You got the Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, maybe future.
You had AJ Green and Tyler Boyd too,
right? So. Maybe, exactly. Maybe you have Jamar Chase with Andre Yoshavash and Jermaine Burton in a couple years. You
never know.
Had some good ones over the years, or at least 2. Chad and TJ Hushmanzada. What about the Chad? What about Chad and T.O.?
That season didn't work out like we thought it would, did it?
Yeah, they both were past their prime. They both had off the field issues.
T.O. still had a game where he had over 200 plus receiving yards.
Yeah, he looked like shit running in that game too. You go back and watch that game, like, damn, that was the back half of script for sure.
That was his quarterback.
Yeah. All right. Hope everybody has a good rest of the week.
Thanks for joining us, everybody. We appreciate the support.
We don't got to wait all day on Sunday. It's a 1 o'clock game.
1 o'clock game. Let's go. Brown, flush it down. Let's close the door of the season.
As usual, Who Day?
Who Day?